Morena tātou. It's a pleasure to see so many of you here today, both on Zoom and in person, particularly given the terrible week that we've had in Auckland with the floods. I'm relying on you that you can hear me when I'm speaking and in church. If you'll let me know if you can't. And so John, you let me know as well, all right? But I'm going to press on. Tēnā koutou, te whānau o Auckland Unitarian. Tēnā koutou ngā manuhiri. Greetings to you, Auckland Unitarian family, and greetings to our guests, and particularly to our guest speaker today, Tunisia Set Ārena. Can you give us a wave, Set? Many of you know Set or T, and I'll say more about Set later on in the service. No witana me repanona oku tupuna. I tipu ake au ki tāmaki makaurau. Nō reira, ka mihi ki te maunga ko maunga whau, me te moana ko waikanata. Ko Ngāti Aotearoa te iwi. Ko Nina Khouri, toko ingoa, tokoroa aku tamariki. Ko Nadia Raoa ko Ralph. E kaipakawainga ho. Good morning, everyone. This is me doing my pepeha, introducing myself, explaining that my forebears are from Sweden and Lebanon. I've grown up in central Auckland, and so as a result, I acknowledge and relate to the mountain Maungawhau, Mount Eden, and to the body of water Waitemata. I consider Ngāti Aotearoa to be my tribe, all of Aotearoa. I've got two kids, Nadia and Ralph, whom many of you know, and who might make an appearance today during the service, and I'm a mediator by trade. It's my honor. My name's Nina Khouri, and it's my honor to be leading this service today for this Waitangi weekend, 2023. No mai, haere mai, ki tēnei whare Karakia o te Atua. Welcome to this church, a space of connectedness, both physical and metaphysical, made sacred by Auckland Unitarians for 120 years now. And to adopt the words of Marilyn Fokowski, from another Unitarian, we can say, we know that you come here for different reasons: to find community, to seek your spiritual and personal truth, to question, to nurture your heart and soul, to be nurtured, to explore new ideas, to find comfort, and perhaps to find the answers to some of your bigger questions. We know that you come from, and particularly important this weekend to acknowledge, we know you come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. And we hope that you will find comfort, connection, challenge, and maybe even love here. We hope that you will find ways to provide outreach to others here today, in our local community, in Aotearoa, and in our world community. I'm going to open with a karakia today, and I'm going to give you the words first in English, and I see they're pasted in chat. Thanks, John. In English first, so that you can appreciate, for those for whom Te Reo is new, as it is for me, the words of our karakia next. I summon from above. I summon from below. I summon from within, and I summon my surroundings. Let the vitality, energy, and well-being be in us all, and we bind, we fix, and we unify in this intention. And now, Te Reo. Tu tawa mai I runga, tu tawa mai I raro, tu tawa mai I roto, tu tawa mai I waho. Kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora ki te katoa. Haumi e, hui e, taiki e. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora, hui hui mai tātou. Greetings and welcome to you all. Let's come together now with our opening hymn, number 298, Wake Now My Senses. This recording was also produced by the First Unitarian Church of Baltimore. Time to light the chalice. John, will you do this for us in church? Everyone, grab your candles now. Every endeavor begins with a first step and encounters darkness and difficulty along the way. We light this chalice in anticipation of knowing the dawning of the light, the beginnings of hope, and the renewal of life. And we'll say together the covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is the sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to serve, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. Thus do we covenant with each other and with our God. Let's move on to our guest speaker. Are you there, Set? There you are. So Set is, I will say a few words, introduce Set and then hand over to them. Set from Ngāpuhi in Te Tai Tokerau, Northland, has both lived and learned experience of Te Ao Māori and me ona tikanga, so the Māori world and the Māori way of life, the right way of doing things, and Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Mahi-wise, work-wise, Set's background are in consulting, so collaborating with business, government, community and iwi organisations to help he tangata, people, and he taio, the world, commercial law and dispute resolution, problem solving, advocacy and education. So a fair range. Set holds a law degree with honours from the University of Auckland and a BA with a double major in Māori studies and ancient history. We first met when Set was my student at the University of Auckland. So I had the misfortune of having me teach them evidence law and then undergraduate negotiation, mediation and dispute resolution, and then a postgraduate master's course in mediation. We got to know each other. Set was my mentee for a while. And a moment that really stood out for me that I'd like to share with you all is when I was helping Set and 3 other students train for a mediation competition that involved role-playing and role-playing to represent clients in a commercial mediation. And the subject of the mediation was a dispute between an Indigenous peoples of a fictitious land and the government. And it was getting pretty tense between the students. They were on opposite sides of the table, representing the 2 different parties. And it was getting personal. And I tried to diffuse the tension by saying, hey guys, just zone out for a moment. Let's separate the people from the problem. None of you 4 here have personally experienced colonization. That happened a long time ago. Recognize that you 4 are here in 2019 or whenever it was. And there was a pause. And Set said, my family and I experience it every day, Nina. And I felt like I'd been slapped in the face. Not from what Set had said, but from the realization that I didn't really understand that. And that was a wake-up moment for me. Since then, Set has become a friend and a colleague. Very proud to call Set a colleague and a friend. Set has taught at the University of Auckland in the courses that I've been teaching, so as a co-lecturer, and has taught me so much. And so I'm really delighted that they have agreed to be here today talking with us for this Waitangi weekend. And the topic of Set's talk is Decolonising Decolonisation. Over to you, T.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Nina, for that embarrassingly lovely introduction. And thank you to all of you for inviting me to speak today as a guest in your congregation. I've had the privilege of being able to get to know some of you a bit over the last few years. through mutual friends who are members of the Auckland Unitarian Church. So I'm really grateful to be able to speak to you and to know you. And something that resonates with me so strongly in the UU way is that love is the doctrine of your church, and that the values that I hear you talking about in your congregation are things like love each other and respect the inherent dignity of all humans, and all genders are whole, holy and good, and things like that. And these are the kinds of things that I wish I'd heard in congregations that I was made to be in growing up as a kid. So it's really, really special to be able to talk to all of you today. I'll introduce myself a bit in the way that, you know, I would. Generally, if I was, speaking on these sorts of things. So in a bit of a pepeha like Nina did at the start of today. So ko waio ko Tunisia Set Ārena aho no Ngāpuhi. Ko whakataha me manaia ngā maunga, ko waitangi te awa, ko whangarei te ringa prawa te moana, ko takahi wai me tauwhara ngā marae, ko te whiu me patu harakeke ngā hapu. So my name's Set, I'm from the north, as Nina said, from a lot of iwi and from a lot of hapu, but from Ngāpuhi. So really happy to be able to speak to you. Coming from Ngāpuhi as well, on this weekend, I was previously down your neck of the woods in Auckland, but I'm currently living just around the corner from Waitangi, walking distance to the treating ground, so I'll be able to go check out the haps up there, which is really nice. Cool. I will get into my talk for today. So to start with, I just want to share a bit of a story. So I might screen share. This is a story of circles and squares. Once upon a time, there lived some circles on their island. Then some squares came from across the sea. The circles and squares clashed sometimes and got along at others. The squares brought some things that were really bad for the circles and really bad for the island, but they also brought some things that were pretty cool. One day the circles said to the squares, "Hey, those are some pretty cool things you've got there. Well, we reckon we've got some pretty cool things too. What do we need to do so that we can swap our cool stuff with other folks' cool stuff, like you do?" The squares said, "Oh, that's really easy. See, we have this rectangle. All you need to do is get a rectangle of your own and hold it up really high. Just like this." So the circles got a rectangle of their own. The circles and the squares swapped their cool stuff, and pretty soon some more squares came to the island. Eventually the squares said to the circles, "Hey, we're really keen to settle down on your island. Gives a bit of land. You'll still be the boss, but we'll take care of our own folk in our own ways, in some spots here and there. We'll treat you like equals, really nicely, you'll see. And we'll help keep you safe from the bad things." The circle said, "Yeah, no, that's right. We will be the boss forever and ever. But that's just because we come from this land and it's our job to look after her like she looks after us. And we know how to take care of each other. You can live here in some spots when we say it's okay to, and there you can do you while we'll keep doing us. But just promise us one more thing. You see these treasures, they are really special to us. Our voices, our families, the fish of the sea, the birds of the land and sky, the way that we sing and we dance and we cry. These are the things that make circles circles and keep our island healthy and strong. If we share our treasures with you, will you keep them safe?" The squares were tricky and they said yes, but really they said no. The squares threw the treasures away in the air and only one rectangle remained. Don't speak, don't sing, don't dance, don't dare cry. We're taking your island away. The circle said, "Please, we'll share our treasures, we'll welcome you into our homes, give you food and a place to stay." the squares said, nah, this is all our stuff now, go away. And they tore the circles apart. Some circles remained, but they felt all alone, surrounded by squares who either stared, gave dirty looks, and followed the circles around wherever they went, or completely ignored them. It's lonely to be cut off from your world. The squares got bigger, but the circles got smaller and smaller and smaller. They were hungry and cold and hurt. Still, sometimes a big circle comes along. When they see this, the squares say, wow, what a great circle you are. You must be very smart and very good and work very, very hard to be this way. When a big circle says to a square, hey, these circles need our help, sometimes the square says, oh, what a noble circle you are for saying so. Over time, all these walls went up over the island. Nowadays, you can only get around if you can see over the walls. It's not our fault that we can't see over the walls. The squares say, ha, you wanted to be treated like equals. So here you have it, just as much chance to see over the walls as we do. Equality sounds better if you think of it more like giving everyone a leg up rather than leaving everyone to it. But it's not always that helpful in the end. Equity is great. That means you give everyone a leg up if and when and how they need it. But the wisdom of circles says this, just knock down the walls. So, what am I talking about here? This is a very true story, I think, of loss, power and powerlessness, of isolation and of hope for better connection in the future. If you look closely at all the rectangles and all the swapsies as well, it's a true story of He Whakaputanga, which is the Declaration of Independence from 1835, and Te Tiriti o Waitangi of 1840, which, by the way, is not the Treaty of Waitangi and has never been the Treaty of Waitangi. My ancestors, for one, have never signed something called the Treaty of Waitangi. But in the end, what it's getting at is systems change. There's nothing wrong with Māori, just as there's nothing wrong with Pākehā and nothing wrong with any ethnic group. But there is something, I think, very wrong with the post-colonization system of living that we have here in Aotearoa, which leaves people of certain demographics consistently suffering at the bottom of every scale of socioeconomic indicators of wellness and prosperity. The system is the problem, and the system needs to change. So how do we change the system? Well, enter decolonisation. Efforts to decolonize those colonial systems that have left Indigenous populations at the bottom of, well, every scale of socioeconomic indicators of wellness and prosperity are important. But I just want to raise some awareness and some caution around one thing to do with decolonisation. And that is, be wary of taking a colonial approach to decolonisation. We are entering a space now in Aotearoa's decolonisation journey where we need to very carefully be prepared to decolonise decolonisation itself. What do I mean by this? It probably sounds very strange and possibly for some people quite new. Well, I mean that the same system that created the problems cannot be the system that solves it. The same Western system that used to say not long ago, we'll beat you if you speak your language and we'll imprison you if you practice your culture, can't be the same system that now takes the lead on a journey towards a more culturally safe and inclusive future. It shouldn't be the ones who are out there saying here's how to learn and how to use the language and how to perform the culture on the world stage. So I'll give a few examples of ways that I think that Te Ao Māori and Te Reo Māori have been used poorly in Western systems. And this is just my opinion. All of this is just my opinion. So yeah, bear with me. So firstly, as an example, the kupu, the Māori word kotahitanga, which means oneness or unity. The word has been weaponized and used in a Kiwi versus iwi debate to say that we are all one people, and that's why we should all be treated equally and Māori shouldn't get special treatment. But I tell you what, we may be one nation, but we are not one people. Māori are not one people. Among themselves, they are not even one people. Māori are distinct and interconnected iwi, hapu, and whānau. So this weaponizing the word kotahitanga, it doesn't sit right. Second example, the word ora. It's a great word, it's a beautiful word, and we know that it means wellness or well. So that's why we say to each other, for example, kia ora, which means to be well. But this Māori word, this kupu Māori, has been poisoned by its association with oranga tamariki. Not cool, naming an entity that has deeply traumatized and harmed countless displaced children in whānau after the kupu Māori, the Māori words for children's wellness. And then after it's already known that oranga tamariki is problematic, not great to continue rolling out the use of that word to name whānau ora and te whatu ora as if those spaces aren't now going to be triggering for whānau who've been impacted by oranga tamariki. Thirdly, third example, and this example can be and perhaps almost always is coming from really good intentions, but I want to put a red flag on the concept of partnership. The concepts of treaty partnership, treaty partners, and being good treaty partners suffers from a fatal flaw, and that is that the treaty was never about partnership. The treaty, as distinguished from te treaty, was about systematic seizing of power by deceit and by force. Te treaty was an economic trade deal that was tossed out the matapihi, out the window, and supplanted by the treaty and by His Majesty's War, which was waged against his own citizenry, the formerly independent tribes of Aotearoa. In 1881, some big deal doctor of the time, who I don't care to name, published on the imminent extinction of the Māori, and happily reported to the New Zealand Society that, and this is a quote, "The disappearance of the race is scarcely subject for much regret. They are dying out in a quick, easy way and are being supplanted by a superior race." Close quote. So you cannot tell me that during the annexation of Aotearoa, the treaty was ever about partnership. So the problem now with calling people to good treaty partnership is that partnership can never achieve enough system change to get minority groups to a place where they have equal opportunity to live and thrive along with majorities. You can't even, through this kind of partnership, you can't even achieve equity or equality, much less systems change. And that's because you cannot be in a healthy partnership if one partner holds so much more power, resources, and decision-making authority than the other. And so I say, and some Māori say, that treaty partnership is a farce. I'm not saying that iwi and the Crown can't or shouldn't work together. They should. Meaningful collaboration, consultation, and joint decision-making is key. But being kidded by notions of partnership is inauthentic and unhelpful, and maybe unintentionally so, but that's the practical result of it. This is just my opinion, and I know it's a challenging one, especially for those who may not have heard that perspective before. So I mean no disrespect, especially to everyone who is genuinely looking to honour te tiriti, but this is a problem that is currently out there and going in a lot of places unnoticed. So if we want decolonisation to truly succeed in making positive changes for the nation, then we need to give Māori themselves the space, power and authority to support to lead the way. Māori themselves are best placed to know how to revitalise their own language and reconnect us with their own worlds and their own ways of being in a safe, healthy and sustainable way. So what can non-Māori do to help with decolonisation efforts then? Be allies and supporters. I'll flag 3 practical ways to do this as examples. So to be allies and supporters, first way, be interested in learning and exploring. For example, it's really beautiful to hear people from all walks of life, using te reo to greet each other, introduce themselves, introduce their kaupapa, which is what they're here for, what they're all about, share where they're from, what matters to them in mihi and in pepeha. So in those sort of formal introductions where you're saying where you're from and what you're about. So it is also beautiful to hear people from all walks of life having a go at pronouncing Māori names and Māori place names correctly, even at times if others around them aren't. Second practical way to be an ally and supporter in this space is to bravely and empathetically give things a try and ask questions where you're unsure. Some of the core values of Māori culture are whanaungatanga, kaitiakitanga, and manaakitanga. And those words mean, or those concepts mean connecting with each other, connecting with the land that sustains us, and showing love, respect, care, and hospitality towards others. Māori culture is an inherently curious, open-minded, and human-centered space. So well-meaning attempts to understand and connect are most welcome. Third and final example of a practical way to be a good ally and supporter is to use the power that you might have to be heard and respected in a way that lends your platform, resources, connections to those who might not have the privilege of being able to access those same opportunities. This is the difference, if we think back to the story, between saying, good on you, big circle, for raising awareness that the other circles need help, versus saying, I hear your circles, what can I do to help? Now, this approach of not taking the lead on or taking over someone else's space, but of backing someone up as an ally and supporting them in practical ways is not, of course, a new idea. It might resonate, for example, with some folk in other minority groups as well. So in rainbow communities, of which I'm also part, for example. Why is this? Well, it's because when it comes to working on ways to uplifting peoples and uplifting their cultures, it is those peoples of those cultures who know best who they are, where they come from, where they're going, and how to get there. In the end, each of us has unique strengths, talents, and visions for our futures. And I think what a world of difference it would make if everyone had the privilege and opportunities to share them. Thank you all for giving me this space to speak to you. And yeah, that's it from me for now, but I wish you all a good long weekend and safety and joy in your lives. Over to you, Nina.
Thank you, Set. We'll have an opportunity to discuss what Set has said, but for now, we'll move on to our closing hymn, number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. It's time to extinguish the chalice. So take your candles. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you, everyone, for allowing Set and I to lead the service today. T, shall we do our closing words?
Okay, I will start with some closing words and then hand over to my tuakana Nina to finish us off. Tātou o tangata wholo, e vila awina, e le atua o le sami tele e o mai. Le awa e le lue e le tapina pina. Owe, nukui mua, te manu lele e tataki e. Owe, te whenua, te mali e, nai ko haki lia, kai ngai. Tuia te hauironga, tamanui te rā, karaia te moana, nui akiwa. Tataia I runga rā, kopa, puanga. O tai mai, rua. Sorry, o tai ma, there, ruae. I'm used to singing these words instead of saying them, so this feels strange to me. Owe, whakamako tiara, te kāinga kia tika ki utae. Owe, he kaumoana taku tirae, he kōrero tukui ho taku e taki nei. Owe, te whenua te mali e, nā e ko haki lia ki utae. If these closing words sound familiar to anyone, that's because they're the lyrics to Ki Uta E, We Know the Way from Disney's Moana. Nina?
And Set has read in both Samoan and Te Reo. We read the wind and the sky when the sun is high. We sail the lengths of the seas on the ocean breeze. At night, we name every star. We know where we are. We know who we are, Oh, where. We set a course to find a brand new island everywhere we roam. Oh, where. We keep our island in our mind. And when it's time to find home, we know the way. Oh, where we are explorers reading every sign. We tell the stories of our elders in a never-ending chain. Oh, where, te kāinga kia tika, we know the way.